Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Bobcast, episode 7 of the Frostburg State Coaches Show. I'm Dan Wallace here with you this week. And first up on the docket, head football coach Delane Fitzgerald, coming off of an interesting weekend, to say the least, at William Patterson, but a 59-7 win over the Pioneers. And there's really not much else more to say about that. You guys went in, you did what you were supposed to do, came away with the victory, came back home.
Yeah, it's this TCB game. Take care of your business, and the young men in the football program and our coaches, our coaching staff, did a nice job getting everybody focused last week. And then we went on Saturday and stayed focused for 3 hours, played well.
And there was a lot of players that stepped up to the occasion. Let's start with your quarterback Connor Cox. A big game for Connor, 4 touchdown passes for him. How have you seen him develop from the time that he got here to what he's become now, and he's really become one of your leaders on the offensive side of the football?
Yeah, Connor had it dialed in on Saturday, but you're talking about how he's different coming from his freshman year to now being a junior, where he started 20-some games now, 26 games,
Give or
27 games, 27 games. So he's a veteran. You can't do anything to him on a college football field that hadn't been done before now. He's seen about everything you can see. He's a lot more focused, Dan, and prepared going into football games than he was 2 years ago, and that's to be expected with his experience.
Now, a couple other players that had big afternoons for you, and it was probably nice to get a game where you got out ahead and the game was almost wrapped up after a quarter and a half, where maybe you got to bring in some personnel that doesn't see the field in a varsity game a lot, but you get 2 rookies of the week this week in Malcolm Facey and Jake Brochart, 2 guys that had outstanding games. What did you see from them this week against William Patterson, and how have they come into their own? It's only still freshmen.
Well, first off, when you play a game and you play well like that, it's nice later on in the third quarter and fourth quarter to see the young guys play, because you watch them every week, and 5-6 days a week they're working really, really hard, and they want an opportunity. So it's good to finally see them get an opportunity. Jake Brochard came in and played well at the outside linebacker position, and he's defensive rookie of the week in the conference. We've got to get Jake, as Coach Kelling, our defensive coordinator, says, we've got to get Jake pointed in the right direction, because he plays hard and flies around, plays like his hair's on fire, and we like that from a defensive football player. We got to get him playing in the right direction all the time, and he's got a chance to be pretty good going down the road. Malcolm Facey redshirted last year. He set out the year with an injury, so he's technically a freshman on the football field this year. Malcolm's been a pretty good football player for us for the last 2 years. Finally got a chance to show it as a running back in the game on Saturday, and did a real nice job. Malcolm's got to clean up some of his reads. He's got to clean up his reads, and his vision has to get a little clearer than it is when he's got the football in his hand. But again, same as Jake, Malcolm's got a chance to be pretty good going down the road. And then there were other players, and we'll leave some out, but there were the 2 freshman quarterbacks played well when they got a chance to play. A couple of wide receivers did some thing. Our offensive and defensive linemen coming in, who hadn't played a ton this year, actually played pretty well on Saturday, and we were happy to see that. Avery Thurman's a freshman safety that's been playing all year for us on special teams, but actually got to play some safety on Saturday and did a nice job. Avery's got a bright future.
Now, I want to ask you about this, not just Jake Brochard here. Of course, you have Graham here as well. So Jake gets Rookie of the Week this week, comes in as a freshman. Have you seen any sort of little friendly rivalry between the 2 Brochards? Do they push each other in practice? Do they push each other in games at all? That they don't want to be outdone by their sibling?
I can't say that they push each other. They're more brothers than anything else. I think some things that have happened to them in their past and stuff, they're about as tight knit as anything you'll see. I don't, I would say that there's not a sibling rivalry there. Graham's a big brother, and he tries real hard to help his little brother. Nice situation that they look out for each other the way they do. Yeah, not a sibling rivalry. Probably the opposite of that, and I don't know a term to call it, but that's what it is. But yeah, and then everywhere we go, there's mom and sister there. Seen dad a couple times this year, so yeah, got a nice family thing going there.
This week coming up, it's homecoming, of course. Montclair State comes into town, a team that caught you guys at home 2 seasons ago. You went into Montclair last year and took care of business the way that you should. Another game that, as you push towards the end of the season and looking at potentials for the NCAA tournament. Another game that you guys need, that you guys have to have here at Bobcat Stadium.
Yeah, we need to stop talking about the NCAA tournament around here and start talking about the next game. The only thing that's important, it's boring to talk about, but the only thing that's important is the next one. Whoever you play, you need to go out and be successful against the next team, and then let the cards fall where they fall at the end of the season. Getting back on homecoming, and yes, it's homecoming. As a player, that's thrilling and really, really exciting. The crowd's going to be big, and all the alumni are going to be up. Your parents are going to be up, and family and friends, and that's great. As a coaching staff, and especially as the head coach, it's just a pain in the rear end. All the distractions, Dan. We do the pep rally on Thursday night, and that worries me that our guys won't be focused after that. We have the Hall of Fame dinner on Friday night, and that worries me that it's going to cause a distraction for some of our players. That everybody wants a little piece of the coaching staff and the football program during homecoming week, and it's a little bit overwhelming because it gets to be too much. As a football coach, I worry about the distractions affecting the way we play on Saturday, and I'll worry about it all week. We need to handle ourselves. We need to handle ourselves in an adult manner all week so that we can play well on Saturday. Getting to Montclair State. Montclair State came in here 2 years ago on Senior Day and upset us, beat us up, and we haven't forgotten that one. Our juniors and seniors in our football program have not forgotten that football game. I hope we use that to our advantage in preparation and focus this week. And getting prepared to play well. I hope we use that game. And then the second part of that is Montclair State's defense. They're top 2 or 3 in this conference, and they're top 25 in the country in total defense, and the way their defensive plays. Their defensive coordinator and defensive coaches do a nice job getting them prepared to play, and then they go out and do a nice job on Saturday. We cannot have a letdown in play this week because they're good enough on defense they can make us pay for it.
Talking about the potential distractions that come along with homecoming for a second, is there anything that you can do as a football coach maybe to make sure that your boys going into Saturday are in the right frame of mind with everything that is going on, all the pomp and circumstance that comes along with homecoming? Is there anything that you can personally do to ensure that your boys are where they need to be, when they need to be there, and in the right frame of mind?
We're always going to make sure that they're, and I had a conversation with them yesterday. We're always, as coaches, it's our obligation and responsibility to teach them to be where they're supposed to be and to be there on time when they're supposed to be there. So we're going to do those same things this week that we do all the time. As talking about homecoming and the distractions, as a coaching staff, we have to be more dialed in than usual, and we have to pay attention to more details than we usually pay attention to, because somebody else can miss something with all the distractions. But I wholeheartedly believe this. When players see a coaching staff that's focused, they become more focused themselves.
Well, Coach, Saturday afternoon, 1 o'clock, the homecoming game against Montclair State. Another big one at Bobcat Stadium. We hope to see everybody out there, and best of luck to you on Saturday.
Dan, thank you for having me.
I'm joined now on the Bobcast by field hockey head coach Kaitlin Borman. Coach, a tough couple weeks for your girls. You're in one of the toughest field hockey conferences to begin with, but then you have to take on back-to-back Sundays 2 of the toughest teams, not just in your conference, but in the country. You go down to Christopher Newport this week, a tough loss for your girls, but I think you have to come away knowing that you are in one of the toughest, if not the single toughest, conference in field hockey across the Division III level, and going into this week, you guys still hold your own destiny in terms of playoff positioning in your own hands.
Yeah, something we've been talking, I kind of just actually sent out a message to the girls just now. Something we've really been talking about is, yes, we just lost 2 games back to back by multiple goals, but those are 2 teams that could see the Elite 8 Final Four. So we're just trying to take the positive things that we did in that game and keep it in perspective that we were able to execute some great things against 2 fantastic teams. So that's really our takeaway that we're trying to take from these games.
Now we'll talk about the games coming up this week. You have a non-conference game and another CAC match later in the week. 3 of them actually in total, 2 CAC matches this week. We'll talk about those in just a minute. But coming up later this weekend, it's homecoming, but it's not just homecoming. Most of the teams, it's senior day as well. We just saw volleyball senior day at the end of last week, and now both soccer's, field hockey, all have senior day this week. 4 seniors on your roster this year. Won't be the last home game for your girls on senior day. A couple more coming, but let's talk about those 4 seniors for a minute and what they've meant to this Frostburg field hockey program. I know you just got here this year, but 4 seniors: Liz Davis, Ivy Meisner, Savannah Newbert, Nicole Leedy. They've had a great impact on this field hockey program.
Yeah, for sure. They're great leaders of this program. It's kind of funny because when I was here as an assistant, I actually recruited these girls. So it's
so you get to see it come full circle.
Yeah. So yeah, they're a great group of girls. They really work hard. They've really tried to lead this team to all the changes that we've been trying to make, and they've done an excellent job of doing that. And I wouldn't have wanted any other people to help lead this team in my first season. So I've been very grateful for what they have accomplished for me just in this one season, let alone their careers. So yeah.
So you missed a few years in between from when you were here before to now, but since you did recruit these girls, how have you seen them grow from the time you saw them playing in high school to now college seniors?
Yeah, it's funny just because I saw all the great potential that they had as seniors in high school. I saw that they would be able to come to the college level and compete in such a great conference. And I think all 4 of them have really done that. I think Savannah Newbert's had a great year. Lee T has obviously kept us in some really close games. Ivy Meisner has just really been a leader by example this year, always working hard in practice and in games. And Liz Davis is just always a very solid player. She's also been a great leader for our program this season. So yeah, they've exceeded my expectations of when I was recruiting them. So it is great for me to be able to kind of coach them in their senior year.
Now 3 games coming up for your girls this week. We start on Tuesday. You go back out of conference to take on the McDaniel Green Terror, a game that I think you have to think you guys have a very good chance of winning.
Yeah, definitely. I think the girls are really excited for this game, especially since I am an alumni of McDaniel. So I think they're really amped up for this game. And yes, I do think this is a game that we can take, but we just need to, come out, play our game. And this is definitely a game that we feel comfortable with.
Does it put any more importance? Is there anything that makes it more special to you taking on your alma mater and possibly getting a W against your alma mater?
I mean, you always want to win against your old head coach, so yeah.
The second game of the week is Mary Washington, and this you have to look at it as the big one this week. Mary Washington right now sits 1-2 in conference play. You have to go down to Fredericksburg to take on the Eagles, but this is the one you really have to look at and say, if we want to make the postseason, this is the one we have to have.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, I think if our girls come out and just play with a lot of heart and hustle, we will give ourselves the best chance to be able to win that game. And that's always been, as you know, something that I've kind of been trying to instill in them, is just coming out and play every game with intensity and just work hard to get those wins, and one goal at a time. Hopefully we can get the win.
And then Sunday is the senior day game over homecoming. It's a game against Wesley. Wesley right now sits at the bottom of the Capital Athletic Conference. We just talked about that Mary Washington game that's a must win. Well, this is another one that's you can't go out and you can't fall behind. You can't lose to a team that's sitting at the bottom of the standings. A game that if you want to make the postseason, you can't have a letdown in.
Yeah, I think last year it was a similar situation, and Frostburg wasn't able to get the win last year. So I think the girls are hungry to beat Wesley, especially since, like I said, last year they kind of took it away from them. So we'll definitely be stressing the importance of winning this game on Sunday as well, especially because, I know the seniors are going to want to win on their senior night as well. So,
of course. Well, Coach, best of luck to you in the upcoming week. Hopefully a couple big wins for you, and you'll see you in the playoffs.
All right, thank you.
I'm now joined by women's head soccer coach Brian Parker. Coach, a good week for your girls. 2 wins, Wednesday and Saturday, 2 big victories. We start with the first one, a 4-1 win over York, and maybe for one of the first times this season, it looked as though your offense was just clicking on all cylinders, and there was nothing that the York defense could do to stop your girls.
Well, if you score on your first shot attempt, I think that things are going to probably go well for you. Brooke Shahidi had a very good game. Honestly, sort of a reward for her hard work, and I think a little bit of frustration for her lack of, finishing and putting up numbers earlier in the season. She's feeling it, and obviously has a great pace about her and a good shot. York did some good things. They had the ball a lot, and certainly gave us some opportunities to actually kind of counterattack against their willingness to possess the ball. So we did a good job of pressuring them and countering them, and cashing in early and taking a little bit of pressure off the team is always awesome.
And it was a bit of a weird game though too. Let's hit on the nature involved with it as well. And it was a good thing that your girls got up to an early 3-0 lead in the first half, because the fog rolls in the second half, and it just becomes a strange atmosphere that sitting on the bench, you can't even tell what's happening on the other side of the field.
No, we allowed a goal early in the after halftime, and I didn't see it then, and I didn't see it on the video. There's just like a blur that just kind of flashes into the screen. I mean, we made a mess of it. It was a good, dangerous cross that we definitely, made a meal of. But that gave them some life and forced us to really kind of keep our foot on the gas, which was not a bad thing, but a great finish for Brooke on the fourth goal, and a pretty comprehensive result for us for sure. But it was spooky,
and it's got to be difficult for the players out there, especially. Let's talk about the one goal that York did score for a second. The ball coming across, it's got to be nearly impossible to see the ball. There can't be much that you can do.
No, it looks surprising. It looks surprising to our players and even to theirs. But it only takes one bounce, and the ball ended up in the York player's lap, and she was calm enough to put it in. But it was, I would like to think, a pretty unusual circumstance with the pretty thick fog in the stadium.
Now on to Saturday, and your girls traveled down to Arlington, Virginia, to take on Marymount. All 3 of your forwards get on the get on the score sheet again. Ferris with a goal, Turney with a goal, Shahidi with a goal. Again, just a comprehensive overall solid effort. 26 shots in total.
Well, I'm giving Marymount some credit. They tried to play. I mean, they put the ball on the floor, and they're trying to do a lot of the right things. I think so was York, and we were prepared for that, and had some traps kind of set in terms of our pressure and when we want to really turn it on, and obviously had good results doing that and forced them out of their rhythm and got chances and scored. But, Marymount is improving all the time, and it's always a tough place to go down there and play. Not so much the surface we're accustomed to, but the sort of drive and play environment, right there north of the airport, Crystal City, not many trees. It's not Frostburg, that's for sure. But a lot of our kids have grown up playing in that park, and parks just like it. So overall, that was a very good night. I'm glad, again, we got the early goals, got a chance to play everyone, and I think a good confidence boost heading into this important stretch.
Now, coming up this week, you have 2 more matches against Penn State Harrisburg and Salisbury, and, of course, Senior Day on Saturday over homecoming against the Salisbury Seagulls. 5 seniors for you on your roster this year: Leah Kelly, Courtney McLean, Katie Broadhurst, Alyssa Malinek, Melanie Bell. They'll all be playing their last home regular season game.
Yep.
These 5 seniors, they've had a huge impact on your program. 4 consistent starters probably for you over the past 3 seasons. What have these girls meant to not just your program, you personally, on and off the field as well?
Well, it's just very gratifying as a coach to see the commitment that these players bring to the program, and then, see them really apply that commitment and become role models throughout their tenure here. They're all very different and do very different things, but do it very well. Leah is the sort of goofy, almost like blonde of the team, and is very funny and a kind of a light, player to have in terms of what she brings to the environment, but super intense defender and very athletic and is challenged by a lot of tough matchups. AJ, more stoic, more of a role model, super fit, center back, and Courtney's been a bit of a utility player and done a little bit of everything for us over her career. We settled her in at center back, and she's kind of a quarterback back there and does a lot of the talking and really managing the game plan, and she's been great at that. Mel Bell's the prototypical box-to-box mid who just it just gets all the hard work done and really probably burns as many calories as anybody on the field when we play. And Katie's left-sided forward who's the kind of mom of the team and is just a really mature, trustworthy kid who's also contributed a lot in her own ways.
So then we move on to the games this week. Penn State, Harrisburg, and Salisbury, the two matchups. We look at the Capital Athletic Conference standings. Right now, your girls sit 4-1-1, settling in at third place in the standings right now. You get the team behind you first, then you get the team one step ahead of you second. Let's start with Penn State Harrisburg, a Harrisburg team that comes in 3-3. You have to travel to Harrisburg midweek game. What can we expect to see out of the Lions, and what do your girls have to do to come away with all 3 points?
I am quite sure that they are being told that this is their conference final. They need another win to get into the conference tournament for sure, and maybe even fight for some placement themselves. And so I expect a dogfight. I mean, they're athletic. They're going to be well organized. They've got the start girl who can score goals. So we're going to game plan and we're going to be prepared. Kind of a tough midday drive and play for us. Grass field, maybe we're not accustomed to. I don't think we've played on the field they're using now. So that game is full of challenges, and we certainly need to have a couple good days and get ready for it. If I have to motivate our players to play Salisbury on homecoming senior day, then that's going to be a big problem. I think normally on a game like that, you got to manage it and just control it and kind of tone it down, and just remind them that the ball is still round and the field size hasn't changed, and we just need to go out and do our stuff. So we will worry about that when the time comes. But Wednesday's game is a challenge.
Is there anything? Let's talk about that Salisbury game now for a second. Anything that you can do as a coach, not to necessarily get your girls up for the game, but to tell them it is still a game. Yes, it's a rivalry. It's a heated rivalry as well. Is there anything that you can do as a coach to kind of manage what's happening in the locker room and the emotions that go through a rivalry such as that?
Well, again, the challenge is to use the emotion, the occasion as fuel, for your fire, so to speak. And so, some players are going to be bouncing off the walls and just need to calm down and breathe, and other players are going to really be charged up by it and really be excited about the game. So I think the confidence just comes from our preparation and the fact that we've been through a lot already this year. These players have played a lot of soccer over their careers, and we just want to go out and make sure that we perform at a high level. And if we're going to lose, we're going to have to be beaten by anybody's really good stuff, and that if Salisbury comes in here and were to get a result, they will need to play really well to beat us. And so being sort of a tough out, I think, is always our kind of first general objective, to really play well enough to be a good defensive team. And then obviously if we execute with the ball and are calm in front of the goal, I think we're going to get chances. I mean, I think it's going to be a very good game, and we need to make that game mean something by getting the points we need Wednesday, but it could end up being kind of a decider who gets the bye, who gets to travel midweek.
And being that game has that importance potentially with Salisbury sitting 6-0 right now, off to a very, very good start in Capital Athletic Conference play. What do you need to see out of your girls? What do your girls need to do to be able to come away with all 3 points?
I mean, be disciplined in their individual matchups. Obviously, we need to be organized and make sure that we're tracking runs properly off the ball, and just be physical. Want to get stuck in and challenge high balls. I mean, Salisbury is interesting in that they have an overall good level of talent and athleticism, but not a lot of special players where we need to do anything particularly unique, I think, for any one player. But they've got a good center forward in the Lucas kid, and they're going to be good. I think it's kind of a custom-made matchup for homecoming day to just have two rivals really go at it who can both get a result depending on how the day goes. So we're certainly looking forward to it.
All right, Coach, best of luck to you on Saturday, and we thank you for joining us.
Thanks very much. Take care.
I'm joined now on the Bobcast by volleyball coach Becky Fletcher. Coach, a good week for your girls, a very good week for your girls. You come away with 2 big wins, 2 wins that you absolutely needed to have. Let's start on Friday night, a 3-set victory over Penn State Harrisburg. The 3 sets might be a little deceiving. They were all very, very close sets, but a game that your girls needed to have and found a way to do it.
Yeah, I think that Friday was a good match. I think Penn State Harrisburg has they are going to surprise some people this year. They're doing some really great things. Their coach has done some really great things with their program in the last 2 years, and they gave us a little bit of a run for our money. But our girls were able to score some points when they needed to and finish out the set, and it was a great Friday night.
And then Saturday, of course, was senior day. We're going to talk about the game first, and what a game it was. There's not more you can ask for if you're a neutral party out of a volleyball game than that. It was back and forth. The ebbs and flows were there. It was an incredible game, a game that goes to 38 points in the fifth set. What is a game like that emotionally for not just you but for your girls on the bench as well, that you know it's a game that you need to have for the conference standings, and for it to go back and forth that much, the lead changes in the fifth set were there every single point. It was basically 2 points York, 2 points Frostburg, 2 points York, 2 points Frostburg, back and forth. What is that like emotionally for you girls on the bench?
So we've been in this situation a lot this year, this 5-set match and this extra, we like to call that extra innings, instead of ending at 25 when we're having to win by 2 and we play, to 30 or 18 in the last set as we were on Saturday. So we were down 14-13 in that fifth set, and I called a timeout, and I was like, listen, we've been here before. We're not nervous about it. We know what we need to do. Let's make it happen. And to say they were excited and wanted that game and wanted to win those last 2 points is an understatement. It was a very emotional day, seeing our 7 seniors and giving them a good send off. And I don't know if there's a better way to end it at home. I like to say that I like to win 25-5, really
every
boring
time.
volleyball, super easy, makes it really easy on a coach, but nobody really likes to watch those kind of matches. So they did a great job of finishing when they needed to. And I was talking to my libero after the match, and she said, Coach, I knew on that final dig when it was 17-16 us, and I dug the ball to Maddie, and as soon as I saw her set 9, I knew it was over, and that's pretty cool.
And can it be any more fitting for those three, really? You get the dig from Lindsay, you get the set from Maddie, and then Naya finishes it off against her hometown school on her senior day. Is there any way more fitting that happens?
No, I think those three have played obviously huge roles for us over the past 4 years. So it's pretty special that those three finished the last 3 contacts on their home court.
Of course, Maddie Torres over 3,000 assists on her career. Lindsay Sapura, she's broken the school record for digs. Naya Cheatham, well over 1,000 kills, now on her way to 2,000. She very well may come close to that 2,000 mark. I want to talk about not just the 3 of them, all 7 of the seniors quickly, what these seniors have meant. Of course, the other 4, Zoe Harris, Jessica Bugtong, Carly Grimes, and Sabrina Roberts, 7 very, very good girls. And it seems to me like those 7 are so close, and not just those 7, but you guys are like a family, and it's going to be tough to watch those 7 go.
Yeah, they're just anyone that meets my team. I always say that you can meet any one of them and get a good feel of what my team is like. They're witty and snarky and funny and personable and smart and intelligent, and they're also good volleyball players, and that's kind of the icing on the cake for me. So anyone that meets them, any recruit that comes, they fall in love with them, and I'm kind of protective of them. I like to think that they're kind of my kids in my own way. They're just an awesome group, and we've spent a lot of time together over the last 4 years, not just playing volleyball in our gym, but we also run a club team out of this area that a lot of them have helped coach over the years. So there are a lot of times in the spring where we're spending lots of hours together, and I think that kind of speaks a lot to who they are. They're a pretty diverse group in a lot of different ways, and they're all very different, and I think that's what makes them so close.
Now, you guys have had a bit of a weird schedule this year, too, of course. You had 6 straight home games.
Loved it.
6 in a row. Well, the time's up now.
I know.
Time's up. Now it's time to go back on the road. Only 4 games left, 4 conference games. You guys now find yourself in a 4-way tie for third. The standings have just kind of jumbled together. 4 teams sitting there at 3-2 in the conference. You guys, Salisbury, Mary Washington, and Marymount. 2 of those teams which you still have to play.
Right.
And then, of course, you still have your contest with Christopher Newport this week, and then the final game against St. Mary's to end the season. Let's talk, though, about the two that are coming up this week.
Mm-hmm.
Coming into the season, two of the teams that were looked at as potentially two of the powers, not just in the conference, but nationally, Mary Washington, Christopher Newport. Let's start with that Mary Washington game on Friday. And we were talking before we went on the air here, and Mary Washington was very, very good last year. They're very, very good again this year. But the one word that stuck out to me that you said to me is beatable.
Yeah. So if you just look, Salisbury beat Mary Wash earlier this year. Salisbury beat us by a whole point when you add all the scores together. So any team in our conference we play is beatable. Any team that we play, if we show up and play really well, it's going to be a great match. And that's really what I'm looking for, is that my girls come and play their best volleyball, and the results will happen because of that.
This has just become a bit of a strange season in the CAC, just because of where everybody is jumbled together. The two teams that have kind of stuck out above the rest are Southern Virginia, a team that's improved drastically this year, and of course this Christopher Newport captains team that you take on Saturday, a team that's 5-0 in the conference, 19-3 overall. But again, a game that your girls are more than capable of winning. What do you have to do to go down to Newport News, a very, very long road trip, and come away with a win?
Well, we have played Christopher Newport tougher and tougher every year, and I think that we need to make sure that we come out and we block well. We need to make sure we come out and we serve aggressively. We need to make sure that our defense is consistent as it's been all season. And then our hitters need to get going. And if one of those pieces falter for us, it's going to be a tough match. But if all those pieces are all going well for us, I think it's going to be a really great match in Newport News.
Well, you guys are on your way right now. You hold your own destiny at this point with four games left, headed towards a CAC playoff berth, and nothing but the best of luck from us here. We hope you have a good weekend this weekend. Come away with 2 wins down in Fredericksburg and Newport News.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Joined now by men's and women's cross-country coach Dale Louie. Coach, good weekend for both of your teams, really, out of Hood College. And we'll start with the men. The men, first place out of 12 teams. Robbie Romano finishing 3rd overall, 2nd in the scoring. Can't get much better.
We did run well on the men's side there, in particular. Robbie ran a very nice race, particularly at the end. And the key word there is race. He had to think it through, and he hung tough and made his move at the right time, which was very crucial. And then we had again, a pack of people in there that, again, those two combinations have been the key for our men in terms of, winning some of the invitationals. This was probably of the 3 that we've won, this was by far the toughest field that we faced. And so that's nice to see, that they came through in that situation.
Yeah, of course, the field teams like Franklin and Marshall there, Catholic, St. Mary's, Hood, McDaniel, even Division II, Fairmont State getting involved in it as well. And you mentioned the pack that came in together, 20th, 21st, and 22nd. Braxton Clark, Jacob Rickards, and Matthew Whitley all coming in really within 10 seconds of each other. A good pack finish. And for a second, let's talk about guys like Braxton, a first year, a young kid that's come in and looks to now really be coming into his own.
Well, it's interesting you asked that, because I just made the comment to Coach Kendall the other day that I really think that Braxton has been probably one of the most rock solid, steady performers that we've had this year. And again, for a first year, that's pretty significant, and there's no doubt he's been very crucial to our success. You mentioned Matt Whitley has really come on strong the last 2 meets, and probably doing some of the best running he's done since he's come here to Frostburg. And it's the point in a year where we really need people to be stepping up like that. So that's been a real plus for us. We had Tom Berklow run for us this year for the first time. He's had a foot injury that will probably need some surgery at some point in time. But he's been diligently doing what he can in terms of his training, and popped in there and was our number 7 man. And when you look at how close the scoring was, we needed those number 6 and number 7 runner. Tanner Jacobs was number 6. We needed those people to displace and drive up the other team's score, because when you look at Catholic and you look at Franklin and Marshall, and even McDaniel, they had more than one person between Robbie Romano and and the rest of our team. So, we really had to pack it in there later on for those men to have that success, and they did that.
And, of course, then let's talk about the women now. The women took 7th place down at Hood over the weekend, your top finisher being Michaela Garrison, and Michaela taking 27th overall. And she seems to really have become the girl that you lean to for scoring, the girl that you look to be towards the front of that pack on your girls' roster.
Yeah, she's been pretty consistent. She's had the last 2 weeks have been, I think, a little rough for her. She ran a little better Saturday. I know she's still not pleased with that. Lauren Halverson did a very nice job for us there Saturday, and really led the team around that course for most of the way. And Sarah McCurry's been coming back from some health issues, and really does look like she's getting stronger every week. So we need those 3 to get us going. We also need our women in the back to be stepping it up a little bit. And we've had some injuries on that side there. We had a young lady go down injured on Saturday, who's been in our top 5, consistently when she's run. So that's, some of those things are hurting us right now on the women's side.
And, of course, Lauren Halverson, she did finish 23rd overall, and Sarah McCurry finishing at 29th. So a nice little pack there again, finishing very close to each other. When you look at Halverson, 27.05, and down to Sarah McCurry, 27.39. So it's only about 30 seconds in between the 3 really coming in. And we talk about it time and time again, but that pack mentality that you guys have, and that's really how you score.
Right, absolutely. And again, as we said from the very start of this season, the big question is how far into the front of the scoring can that pack, those 3 at this point in time, can they get? That's going to be the crucial, how we do at the conference meet. And right now we're still very much a work in progress there.
And, of course, that conference meet coming up in 2 weeks as your teams travel down to Christopher Newport for the CAC championships. We'll talk about that more in detail, more in depth next week on the Bobcast. But this week, you get it again. You get a nice week off. You get a nice week to let some of your runners recover before you go into that conference championships. And, of course, you still got to get the training in, but a nice break for them. We talked about this was the big stretch, 4 weekends in a row having to run, and it's got to be nice to let them kind of just relax and take a break from having the hard work that you have on a meet week.
Yeah, you're right on target there. I mean, the goal here now is a little bit of rest, recovery, for some people rehab. Our intent is to put some really good hard workouts in here, particularly this week, and then hopefully have them well rested for that conference championship.
Knowing that conference championship is 2 weeks away, you get the week off in between, instead of just going directly into that conference championship like some of the teams may be doing. Is there anything that you can do differently, that you will do differently, knowing that you have that extra week of preparation to really get your guys and your girls ready for that conference championship?
Yeah, we definitely alter our training a little bit. For example, our focus here early in this week will be a little bit of recovery. You can call it rest. We're not totally resting, but backing off a little bit. Again, we'll probably individualize that even more than we have in the last couple of weeks, just based on what some people need. Tom Burklow, for example, I mean, it's his first race of the season. He's probably going to be pretty sore and beat up this week, more so than maybe some of the other people. So, we've already made, some training plans there, with him, and we'll do the same with some of our other runners as well. But then we will have some of our hardest workouts of the year this week, just to try to fire it up, so to speak.
Well, you get the nice week off before the conference championships coming up in 2 weeks. So we'll get to talk to you one more time before we get to those conference championships. So, Coach, thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you again next week.
All right. Thank you very much.
Joined now by men's soccer head coach Keith Burns. Coach, a pretty good week for your boys all in all. 2 games this week, a 2-1 loss at York, a 2-0 win against Marymount over the weekend. And let's start with that York game. It was a game that was pretty even through the majority of the 90 minutes, and York catching a late goal to win the game, only 34 seconds left on the clock. But all in all, it was a pretty good performance from your boys. Josh McRoby getting the only tally of the evening. What can you take away from a game like that where you defended for almost 90 minutes and it just fell away at the last possible second?
It's just kind of like every other game we've had this year where we couldn't get the job done. We played okay. I mean, we played hard, did some good things with the ball, had a handful of chances, but one missed clearance off of a couple that was basically a long free kick and a couple of bounces and half chances that just got knocked around the box and just it fell to the guy in the right spot for a tap in basically, and it's kind of how it went. So it's kind of been the way the season's been going, where we're not catching any breaks. So unfortunately, it was another loss.
Then on Saturday, you go down to Arlington, Virginia, and you take on Marymount, and probably what has been one of the best performances your boys have put together as a collective all season. KJ Davis getting a goal, McCore Harris getting on the score sheet as well, 15 shots in total for your boys. What did you see watching from the sideline that worked well, and what were your boys able to do to exploit Marymount's defense and get a couple on the board?
I thought they came out with pretty good intensity, especially in the second half when we actually started to play better. It seemed like they were just kind of all flying around the field and picking up the loose balls much better. If we didn't win the first 50-50, we were winning the second balls. The back line did a pretty good job of possessing out of the back and not forcing in too many passes to the front line, kind of building through the midfield. So the offense started to get a little bit stronger. We were getting around the outside for some crosses, getting some shots from the middle. So all in all, it was probably one of our better offensive, just possession games where we had the ball in their half and then could actually get some decent scoring opportunities.
And that puts you guys right now at 2-4 overall in the conference standings. You're sitting just below that red line, the 6 teams that make the conference tournaments, and of course a big one coming up over the weekend against Salisbury. We'll talk about that game here in a little bit, but first, that is senior day coming up over the weekend. Not the last home game that your boys will play. Of course, there's a game on Wednesday against Southern Virginia. That'll be the final home game, but it is senior day, and six seniors on your roster this year: Jackson Bicknell, Ernie Williams, Rodrigo Valenzuela, Jonathan Lippett, McCore Harris, Elliot Quinteros. A collective of 6, not 6 guys who have necessarily been with you all 4 years of their careers, but 6 guys that mean a lot to this program and have contributed a lot over the years to what you guys have been able to do.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Rod is technically the only true 4-year player. Lippett's probably been on the team for 4 seasons, but it's taken him 5 years with his injuries, and even this year he's still, he's been in and out of the lineup, just hasn't been able to be healthy. It's unfortunate for him. So the other guys we've had around for 2 years. Jackson was for 3 years. Elliot was for 2 years with the year off for an injury. So they have put a lot of time in. Would have been nice to have some of them for 4 years, especially guys like Ernie and McCore. But it's it's a senior class that I think is hungry still, and they're trying to inspire the younger guys to give all they have for another week and a half and see if we can take this thing to the playoffs and give them a chance to kind of go out the season just giving it all they got and just leaving it on the field. Because there's been games where we probably haven't done that, so hopefully it's starting to click that the finality of it all is approaching real soon if we don't really start to come together. So the seniors have, I think, started to really step into that leadership role, because for them, it could be the end of the road coming up.
And of course, that when you look at the playoffs, sitting in that 7th seed, as I said before. And the nice thing for you, though, is the final 3 games of the season, you get them all at Bobcat Stadium. You don't have to travel anywhere. You get 3 home games and 3 games that you have to look at and say, these are 3 games that we can win. We start with Penn State Harrisburg coming in on Wednesday. A team that last year you guys played back and forth games with. You played them in the playoffs last year. You got a win at Harrisburg in the postseason last year, and a team that you have to think coming into Wednesday, a team that you can very well get 3 points off of.
Well, unfortunately, the way we've been playing this year, I don't expect to beat anybody just because everyone's good enough to beat us. But it's a game we need to win for certain. They're definitely a team that's good, but not great. They've had a good result against Salisbury, and then other than that, they're kind of similar to us in a way. But I think them and Salisbury, we're just going to be 3 good teams playing against each other. That it's just going to come down to who wants it more, or who makes that killer mistake. But there's definitely no easy road there to a win, which is the way you want it. You hope you're just playing your best soccer when you knock somebody off. So hopefully that's they'll bring the best out of us when we can get a win at home. And it will be nice. It feels like we've been away forever. It's only been 2 weeks, but it was 4 games in a row. So to finish up at home, hopefully there's a little bit of home cooking going on, and maybe we'll get some of those breaks that we haven't gotten earlier in the season.
And, of course, Salisbury then on Saturday, the big rivalry game. It's a game that you really shouldn't have to tell your boys that that they need to get up for. It's what could very well be the biggest one especially for these seniors of their career coming into Saturday afternoon. What do you expect to see out of Salisbury come Saturday, and knowing that it's a big rivalry, how do you maintain the intensity but also manage the emotions that go along with a big time rivalry game?
I mean, the rivalry part is probably only on our end because we haven't beaten them enough for it to be a rivalry just yet. But the guys definitely always get up for it, and I know Salisbury gets up for it, but I don't think there'll be too much to control just because it means so much that if we lose, it could be the end of the playoffs. So, Salisbury picked up some points against York this past weekend, which we didn't do, so it kind of puts them a little bit ahead of us. So if we don't beat them, then they're going to be, firmly in front of us as far as that playoffs go. So I think the guys know what's at stake, and just beating them, isn't good enough. We want to beat them and make the playoffs. So I think that's kind of where the focus is.
And Salisbury, of course, sitting 2-3-1 overall on the Capital Athletic Conference season, sitting just ahead of you guys, right above that red line in that 6th spot. So knowing as well that you sit in 7th, Salisbury sits in 6th right now, you're all not just looking to win this game, but potentially knock them down below that red line as well. And that's got to add a little bit more fuel to the fire, knowing that big rival, you can knock them out of the playoffs potentially as well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's an added bonus. I don't care too much about where they land as long as we're in, but if they happen to be out, then I guess that's nice. But, yeah, I mean, it's really about just focusing on our guys and putting our best product forward to hopefully make this playoff push.
All right, well, Coach, best of luck to you in the week with Harrisburg and Salisbury, and we'll talk to you again next weekend.
All right, thanks a lot.